order. It is 9 a.m. I could ask everyone to please stand as we say the pledge of allegiance. Flag behind us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The mission of the Texas State Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners is to establish and enforce policies to ensure the best possible quality of veterinary and equine dental provider services for the people of the state of Texas. Ms. McLeod, would you please call the roll?
Stephen Gola,
Present.
Lynn Kreiner,
Here.
Victoria Whitehead, Randall Skaggs,
Present.
Stacy McLeod, present, Larry Muchigamba,
Here.
Sue Allen, here, Keith Pardue, Raquel Olivier, present.
Thank you, Ms. McLeod. We do have two absences, Victoria Whitehead and Keith Pardue. Okay, next up, item number 2, consideration and approval of the February 20th, 2025 minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from that meeting?
Move.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of the approval of minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The minutes are approved. Okay, next up, we're going to move into section 3, public comments. Please be advised, comments must be limited to 3 minutes. Ms. Kelly Phelps will keep the time, and as the timer goes off, when your time expires, please respect that. Additionally, the board will not hear public comment or testimony regarding a pending contested case. We will start with our virtual comments first, and I will call on Mike Giuliano. Staff, do we have him set up, ready to go? Mr. Giuliano, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, good morning. Thank you for being here. And again, if you could keep your comments to 3 minutes, we would appreciate that. But at that, you may begin.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I work at Epicure Pharma, which is an outsourcing facility that specializes in veterinary medicine. So we're asking the board to clarify its position on Rule 573.44, which is, I believe, on the agenda this month, and whether it prohibits a veterinarian from ordering a compounded multi-use vial of a controlled substance for office use. So a very large percentage of veterinarians in Texas believe the board's position is that that rule does prohibit a veterinarian from obtaining those medications, even though that rule does not mention controlled substances or multi-use at all. So even entities such as the TVMA believe that is the board's position, and experts at vet shows are spreading information at the vet shows that that is the board's position, and that vets cannot order these medications which their patients need. Now, if the board does look at the rule and decide that compounding pharmacies shouldn't be providing those medications due to either the new USP standards or proper DEA licensure, pharmacies do not typically have DEA manufacturing licenses, which you need to provide controlled substances. We do hope that the board will clarify that outsourcing facilities can provide those medications. Outsourcing facilities meet CGMP rather than USP standards, CGMP being the higher standard. And outsourcing facilities have DEA manufacturing licenses rather than just the DEA pharmacy licenses. So again, we hope that the board will clarify its position on that rule so that veterinarians can feel comfortable ordering those medications that their patients need. And I'm happy to provide any information that the board may need on this subject. So thanks again for allowing me to address the board.
Thank you, Mr. Giuliano. Next up, online, I have Ms. Christine Walk.
Hello?
Ms. Walk, can you speak up just a little louder into your microphone?
Yes, hi, how are you?
Great, I can hear you. You may proceed.
Yes, my name is Christine, obviously. I'm calling in regards to one of my complaints, or the complaint, sorry, that I have filed. I wanted to just kind of express some of the disheartened situation. I am currently on the books for today in order to have it voted out of medical review, and I'm just really discouraged by the situation. Last April, January 15th, 2024, I had
Can we get her
to
to?
euthanize our
Ma'am?
family pet of 15 years. Yes,
Ms. Walk,
yes.
can you pause for just 1 second, please?
Elizabeth Sullivan, Strict Matter General
Okay.
Counsel, Texas Department of Licensing and Regulations. Since this relates to a case that's currently ongoing, we need to not have.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
We
Are
only
you
do that for
speaking to me?
SOA contested
For
cases.
so.
Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
So since this is in the initial complaint phase, she can go ahead and,
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
thank you.
Okay, Ms. Walk, you may continue. I'm sorry, we had a little disruption here. Go ahead and continue.
Okay, I just wanted to express some of my discontent and unhappiness with the situation at hand. In January 2024, January 15, 2024, we had our long-term 17-year-old family member put down, hoping to have a peaceful, humane euthanasia, which was far from the case. I had an unpleasant experience with the vet and the vet staff that basically botched my pet's euthanasia, which drug it out for an hour and a half of him being extremely horrified, scared, anxious, traumatized, dragging himself across the floor, being lifted up by his tail by the staff for whatever reason. Just the torment went on for an hour and a half. He had not even seen the vet initially. The vet walked in to see a different pet. When he realized the situation, he left the room and never came back for another hour and a half, where my son's first and only dog sat there the last minutes of his life, tortured and terrified, lying on the floor. They came back in after, oh, I gave him a smaller dose. I don't understand what happened. He sat there and suffered for an hour and a half before the vet even came in to see him. And I just find that very disheartening. And my response from the board was that it was okay because the severe weather conditions had the hospital on skeleton crew. I don't see how that makes it okay that my 17-year-old world, my son's first and only dog, had to spend his final moments suffering. And the only reason I filed was to hope and pray that nobody else had to experience what we went through. And I was given the response that lay people won't understand. Well, I'm not a lay person. I've had 30 years in healthcare. I've had over 20 years working with animal shelters and dog rescues. I have been in and out of euthanasias, death, dying. I understand the process, but an hour and a half for a botched euthanasia is inhumane. I also found not
Ms.
following
Walk?
any of the guidelines
Ms. Walk,
that he
thank
wasn't
you.
even
Thank you for
making
your comments.
contact.
Your 3 minutes
Sorry?
are up. Your 3 minutes have expired. We do appreciate you being here today. Thank you for your comments. Okay, and that's it for all online testimony or comments, not testimony. All right, next we'll do in-person comments. And first up, I will call Miss Anita Ross. There's a chair and a table here. You're welcome to come up and again, please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Sure.
Thank you. In April 2020, I filed my complaint against Casey Farragon Singletary. I'd gone back to Blue Pearl to retrieve some of Pyre's personal items. I asked for a copy of his medical records. I began to read what little was there. I began to feel sick. This is when things began to unravel, the horrific events orchestrated by Farragon. I immediately drove to Pyre's personal vet. He reviewed the medical records and was very upset, said his Conversations over the phone was not anything like she had charted in the medical records. She lied and deceived us about everything, including that she did an ultrasound and intentionally withheld the negative findings from us after she told us the ultrasound was unavailable. She refused to cooperate with the investigation as well as her vet attorney, Donald A. Farrell. RC letter listed multiple investigative findings. The treatment provided did not meet the professional standards of care. The medical records did not contain additional vitals and tests conducted. Neither respondent nor attorney submitted a response to the complaint for numerous emails by the investigator. Potential violations listed were professional standards of care, patient record keeping, and duty to cooperate in Veterinary Licensing Act. All of this information was ignored by the board. The entire IC process 18 months later was totally unprofessional and total lack of interest or empathy by Dr. Jesse Quillen, President, and Brittany Sharkey, General Counsel. My attorney was denied the ability to represent me, was totally one-sided and abruptly ended. I emailed Ms. Sharkey after the IC and got no response. It is completely evident by their own actions the board is biased to favor the veterinarian and diminish the rights of the complainant. We received an email from Ms. Sharkey several days later saying, quote, the board panel ultimately found no violation of the rules of professional conduct, unquote. I've sent multiple emails to Ms. Sharkey asking for our statutory required 801208C notification to complaint regarding complaint disposition. The board shall include in the notification an explanation of each reason the disposition of conduct alleged in the complaint did or did not constitute grounds for the imposition of disciplinary action. These dangerous and deadly vets have the perfect out and blessing of the board. All they have to do is refuse to cooperate with investigations, so they're never held accountable for their egregious, calculated, potential actions. When they're represented by attorneys who are also vets, they have even more protection. So why would they even think about duty to cooperate, taking a chance of being held accountable for their actions, potential fines, suspension, or loss of license? So they just ignore the board. They take a chance on getting a small fine or mandatory 2 to 3 hours of CE and back to business as usual. Or better yet, the board just looks the other way and says no violation, like they did the pirate. Yesterday, it was 5 years since Pirate was intentionally taken from us, and Farazan and her vet attorney Farrell have never been held accountable for violations of rules of professional conduct. Multiple violations occurred, and all were ignored by the board, and yet the board's, quote, compact with Texas' first priority is to protect the public, unquote. And yet the public continues to suffer, and the animals we love pay the price. Where was their protection? Oral stories that I've researched receive no justice for animals as Stimpy, Suki, Joey, Lightning, Harvey, and Dazzle, and too many others still is. But thankfully, Allie and her family received little comfort knowing the vet who took her life finally lost her license. These cavalier, flagrant abuse of power and disregard for lawful process only further demonstrated gross lack of competence and compassion. In closing, quote, he who decides a case without hearing the other side cannot be considered just, unquote, an old Roman proverb.
Thank you, Ms. Ross. Okay, next up, I call Alicia Taylor.
Good morning, President and board members. Thank you for your time and commitment to Falcor's case CP 23226 and the investigation into Dr. Nagy's actions. I stand before you as Falcor's voice. On December 5th, 2020, Falcor, beloved pet Kiko, walked into Texas A&M Veterinary and Teaching Hospital with a limp due to a scuffle with our Billies. Day 1 prognosis, the x-ray showed only soft tissue swelling, no broken bones, no serious injuries. During intake, a tech placed their fingers into Falcor's mouth. Falcor instinctively bit down, drawing blood and triggering a mandatory 30-day rabies quarantine. On January 4, 2021, Falcor's condition after his 30-day quarantine was nothing short of a nightmare. He was wheeled out to us in a cage-like cart, unable to ever walk again, his body completely destroyed. Both front legs were immobilized in PVC-like piping casts. Both back legs suffered symmetrical 360-degree lacerations down to the bone. Both back hock joints were blown and swollen to the size of golf balls. His hind hooves were black, cold, and lifeless. His chest was 3/4 sloughing and exposing raw flesh. Procedures he endured were unauthorized. It was almost like he was used as a science experiment. Had we followed A&M's persistent euthanasia recommendations days prior to his release, we would have never known the full extent of his injuries. On December 22nd, while Falcor was at A&M, post Dr. Nagy's care, a second set of x-rays were ordered by another vet on staff. The x-rays report conclude multiple abnormalities in the front and hind limbs, likely caused by trauma. Yet no one can or will say what warranted the need for the second set of x-rays or what triggered his rapid decline in mobility and injuries. We desperately tried to save him. 3 outside veterinarians confirmed his injuries were unexplainable. A veterinarian at OSU said his joints felt like marbles. The level of trauma he endured was unimaginable. Early in quarantine, Falcor was thriving, standing, eating bananas. We received almost daily updates, pictures, and videos until Falcor's original vet left for Christmas break. Then suddenly, unexpectedly, his health rapidly declined. While Falcor was under Dr. Nagy's care, her documentation and case notes were blank. She never once reached out to us, never communicated, never accounted for Falcor's suffering. We never even knew she existed or was Falcor's vet until the investigation. Falcor spent 30 days alone in isolation, handled only by humans. There's no medical or environmental explanation for his injuries. The only possible cause is human-inflicted trauma. How can this happen at one of the highest ranked teaching hospitals in the country? How can we trust the system meant to protect our animals and teach future vets when transparency is absent and accountability is evaded? For 4 years, we have fought for Falcor, grieving a loss that never should have happened, while those responsible continue practicing, teaching, and treating animals, facing no real consequences while we struggle to piece together the truth. I'm pleading with you today to help us ensure this never happens again, to pursue justice not only for Falcor, but for every animal whose suffering goes unseen, undocumented, and unacknowledged, to protect the public and hold us accountable to the high standards of the profession that they represent, the oath that they swore to uphold. Falcor deserved better. He mattered, and I made him a promise that I would fight as hard as he fought to live. Thank you again for your time and efforts. It doesn't go unnoticed, and I'm grateful. And please continue to help us bring the truth to light.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. I have no other public comments. Is there anybody that's turned in a sheet that I'm not aware of? Again, thank y'all for being here today and for providing those comments to us. We do take those with great appreciation. Okay, agenda item 4, pursuant to chapter 551.071 of the Texas Government Code, this meeting of the Texas Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners will now go into executive session. It is 9:17 a.m. at 10 a.m. and no action was taken in executive session. So we are back. All right, thank y'all for coming back into the room. We'll move on to agenda item number 6, and that is direct reports. I call on Ms. Sharp.
Thank you, Dr. Gola. We are right in the thick of legislative session. We are more than halfway through at this juncture. And so there's a couple of bills that the agency is monitoring very closely. Obviously, first and most importantly is SB1 and HB1, the budget. Late last week, the House passed their version of the budget. And now the budget is heading to conference committee. The Senate appointed their conferees. We expect the House will do that this week. The Senate version of the budget had approval for all of our exceptional item requests. The House budget had approval for none of our exceptional item requests. So that difference is obviously going to have to be worked out in that conference committee. So we'll be watching any kind of updates from that very closely. That is the one bill that is constitutionally required to pass. So we are confident that it will pass, but just in what form is the question. So definitely anxiously awaiting the results of that conference committee. The next bill we are monitoring that is moving is HB 1545. That is a sunset bill that would extend the agency's next sunset date from 2027 to 2033. That bill was heard in the House Doge Committee last week, and it was reported and voted out favorably yesterday. So that would be a very exciting update for the agency to give us a little bit of more breathing room before our next sunset review. The next bill we are watching is SB 2155 by Senator Perry. This is a bill that's a legislative cleanup and changes a lot of our policies and procedures and things that hopefully will make us more efficient as an agency. This is a result of a collaboration between TDLR and our own agency to really look at what legislative changes we needed to be more functional. So that bill is moving. It is fully passed the Senate. It is now in the House and awaiting referral to a House committee. The last and final bill we are monitoring is SB 1442 and its companion in the House. That is the telemedicine bill that would allow veterinarians to use telemedicine without establishing a veterinarian client-patient relationship in person before using telemedicine. Both the Senate and House bill have had their committee hearings, but neither has moved past that stage. Like I said, we are actively monitoring and keeping an eye on that bill. As I've alluded to previously, our new website went live in mid-March. I really want to take some time to thank our in-house tech team led by Femi and T. Lamonge, who is here from TDLR, and her team of web folks worked really diligently to redesign and update that website, make it more user-friendly, bring it into 2025. I used to joke that it kind of looked like something I did as part of a technology project in middle school, and now it looks like it actually was professionally done, which is a huge upgrade. You can now submit your complaint forms online. You don't have to fill out a PDF form. You can do that online. You can look up the verified licensees. You can renew and update your license. So we've really brought everything as in-house and technologically friendly as we can. And so that's been a labor of love that we're very excited about. The next initiative that we are working on that I know the board has been asking for is a board notes kind of meeting recap. We've tried a couple of different things that I don't think have worked as well as we have wanted to, but we are looking at doing a digital recap, an email blast following board meetings. We are in the process of restarting our relationship with the TVAA magazine and having board members write articles kind of about common issues we're seeing. Dr. Gola has very generously offered to write the first one for the June issue. So that'll be the centerpiece of those board notes, as well as kind of any updates around reminders about CE, if we issue new guidance, like we may potentially do at a later agenda item. And so the anticipation is that will be a digital newsletter that will come out quarterly following each board meeting.
Right now, I would just state also that we've got a good relationship with the EDP organization as well as TIVA, Texas Equine Veterinary Association.
Yes.
And they are also going to be participating in those newsletters.
Yes. So yes, any content that the board members create for those publications will be included in that. So hopefully we can double up and provide some good guidance and some information to our licensees around best practices. So look for that coming here shortly. We're just kind of working on making sure that we have the right technology solution to make that happen, because sending out 15,000 emails is challenging. Outlook is hard to do that. So we gotta look into some technology to make that happen, but we are getting closer. So that is it for my update. Are there any questions from the board? Okay. Next up, we have Wendy Womack with our licensing update.
Hello, everyone.
The licensing team is reporting for the second quarter of fiscal year 24, which is December, January, and February. As far as new licenses issued, we issued 66 new DVM licenses and 3 DVM reinstatements. We had 2 new equine dental provider licenses issued, 56 new LVT licenses, for a total of 127 new licenses issued in that 3-month period of the second quarter. For renewals, we had 2,511 DVM licenses renewed, 13 EDT, and 591 LVT licenses renewing, for a total of 3,115 licenses renewed just in the second quarter. So as far as total active agency license counts as of February 28th, 2025, and then in this context, active means anyone whose license is in one of the following statuses: active, expired, inactive, suspended, and probated suspended. We don't count as active, revoked, retired, surrendered, deceased, or canceled. The total active agency license counts were 13,001 DVM licenses, 2,897 LVTs, and 67 EDPs, for a second quarter end total as of February 28th of 15,962 licenses. This concludes the licensing report. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Wendy. Next up is Mike Tacker with the enforcement report.
Good morning, everybody. Very busy second quarter. We took in 137 complaints. Out of that number, 21 of them were found to be non-jurisdictional. There were 154 complaint investigations completed and sent to Ms. Kelly over here. And then at the end of the second quarter, we roughly had 315 open investigations. On the majority of the complaints, 72 of them were standard of care allegations and 12 practice and without license. That was our top 2 highest numbers for categories. On the inspections side of it, we did 405 inspections, 11 complaints open from inspections, and those cases were record keeping for controlled drugs. So that was the end of the second quarter. Today, we roughly have about 350 open complaints that are under investigation, and as of yesterday, we've completed 1,114 inspections. So that will wrap up the enforcement side of it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mike. Next up, we have our legal update from General Counsel Kelly Phelps.
Thank you. So these numbers were compiled about a month ago, so they're still largely accurate. The breakdown of complaints we had at that time, 238 complaints in the legal division. 55 of those were pending board IC informal conference, 72 pending board action, 27 pending board approval of orders, 7 on hold pending civil or criminal proceedings, 40 cases pending staff conference, 11 cases filed at the State Office of Administrative Hearings, SOA, 9 cases pending SOA filing, 6 cases pending a cease and desist, 8 cases pending an agreed order, 1 case pending approval at the Texas Commission of Licensing and Regulation for a contested case, and 2 cases pending a licensing committee hearing. After today's board meeting, the projected complaints remaining are approximately 138. Any questions?
Actually, I do, and it may go back to Mr. Tacker. Do we have a fairly significant increase in board complaints?
We have seen that. So historically, so last year we hit over 600 for the first time in complaints received, and we are on track to hit that again, when historically we had been sort of between 450 and 500. Right. So we have seen a statistically significant increase in complaints received by the agency.
So do we know, or do we not have that ability at this time to track, like, the breakdown?
In terms of what, Dr. Kreiner?
So like how many of them are non-jurisdictional or we haven't been able to, figure that out? Like, is it
Oh.
10% or 20%? And
No,
how
we-
many are standard of care?
We do have that data. So you heard Mike say that for the complaints received this quarter, 72 were standard of care. So we keep that data.
Right, okay. But that was this quarter so was that 600 for the quarter or 600 for so far this fiscal year?
So it was 600 for last fiscal year.
Okay.
And so we're on track because we're still in the middle of this fiscal year. It looks like we are on track to hit that number again this year, but we do track so we keep track as the fiscal year is going and then we can kind of
Get our total. And can you point to a potential reason why we've got such an increase? Is it because we have more licensees, or is there something going on
In the
that we can
water.
point to?
Hopefully there's nothing in the water, but I think as our population grows, so the population of Texans grows, the population of pets grow, population of licensees continues to grow. So I think this is just, you're just gonna see growth in all numbers as the
Right.
state continues to grow.
Okay, well, having said that, and I know we're in the middle of this legislative session, is that going to affect how many more maybe investigators we might need in the future if we continue getting more cases? Because it's not like these cases take, a day. It takes a while, plus all the inspections that need to be done.
So this will be conversation for part of the strategic planning process as we talk about getting ready for our next legislative appropriation cycle. So because we had such an influx of new staff come on board last session, we wanted to kind of stabilize and make sure, get everyone onboarded, fully trained up and fully operational before we kept expanding the staff. So the plan is to bring to you all a plan to sort of more slowly and gradually expand our staff as that population grows rather than, like a 40% increase one session. So this session, we're going to ask for an additional person. Then the plan is maybe next session, an additional person. So making sure that growth is sustainable and consistent going forward.
Okay, and then considering we have one person reading all these cases how many investigators? 5, 6?
11.
11. So we have one person reading all the cases that 11 investigators work on throughout the year. Is that sustainable, or are we going to need another reader, another person to go through these cases so that we can get them to either dismissal or staff conference or informal conference in a more timely fashion?
I think that's a conversation to be had for sure. That's not something necessarily in the immediate future plan. So probably not for the next biennium or maybe even the following biennium, but I think that's a conversation to definitely have and plan for in the future because it's a challenging role to hire for. It's a challenging role to fund. And so making sure that we have the work necessary to get there and that makes sense for our agency. But that's definitely, as we grow, we're going to need to expand. As the state grows, the workload grows, we are going to need to expand staff in sort of all quadrants.
Right. So currently the one medical reviewer is sufficient to get through all of these cases.
We believe so, yes.
Right. Great. Thank you.
Ms. Sharkey, have you found any correlation to increased number of cases due to the ability to complain online? Or is it too early?
I think it's a little bit too early. So that functionality went live it's been about a month. So we're keeping an eye on it. And some of the challenges we've seen are making sure that fields are required because we're not by statute allowed to accept anonymous complaints. And so people have maybe felt emboldened to try to submit anonymous complaints or with false information. And so having to sort of weed through that on our end. We've already seen that, but we're keeping track of it and getting a little bit more data points on that topic.
I do want to highlight that one of the legislative requirements of us was to be more transparent, and I've tested the website, typed in my own name. It's very easy to find doctors and to see if there's any disciplinary action. So thank y'all for getting that up and running. That was a big win.
Yes.
So thank you.
And we're also, and to that point too, Dr. Gold, one of the things that went live recently is our cease and desist functionality, which we've never had. So you can now access any cease and desist orders on our website. So very excited to have that fully up and operational as well.
Board Board members, any further comments or questions?
Thank you. Next up, we have Jared Honrath with the compliance report.
Good morning, board. The compliance department currently has 38 licensees that are being monitored regarding board orders. The task of DPS fingerprint validations is continuing to be done still on a daily basis and will be going on for years to come. Just a reminder, every licensee will have their fingerprints validated after 5 years to make sure that they're still active licensee per state and federal guidelines. Staying on the fingerprint topic, I've reviewed 650 total new fingerprints in fiscal year 2025. And lastly, DPS has begun auditing our fingerprint program again, as it does every 3 to 4 years. And I'm very happy to report that this arduous audit has been completed. The compliance department currently has fielded 307 phone calls for compliance, licensing, fingerprints, CE, and other general agency related questions from licensees and applicants so far in fiscal year 2025. The number of calls, however, is declining as more information is now available on our website, and our employees at our agency are getting well versed in our agency's rules and regulations. The compliance department has also assisted with 95 agency related requests from various departments within our agency. Finally, CEs are required to be updated upon license renewal, and if not, an extension may be granted with auditing taking place when extension due dates are lapsed. This is being tracked through our new database, and compliance so far with the CE extensions has been impressive. 12 cases for CE noncompliance, however, have been transferred to enforcement for further investigation as of this update. And with that, I'll take any questions.
There's no questions for Jared. We'll move on to our last and final director update with Candace Van Vlera for finance.
Good morning. The agency has entered its third quarter of fiscal year 2025 as of March 1st. We are about 58% of our way through the fiscal year and have spent approximately 45% of our budget so far. So we're sitting pretty good right now as far as the budget goes. There's not really much else to report. We're kind of in our slow period right now. If you have any questions, please.
If there are no questions for Candace, I will just issue one final reminder that I forgot to mention. All board members, your personal financial statements are due April 30th to the Texas Ethics Commission, so please make sure to get those in on time. It is an automatic $500 penalty if you don't. No ifs, ands, or buts. So make sure we get those in. If you're having any issues with filing or need any help, please let me know. We can make that.
And new board members, just because you just did it, you have to do it again. So.
Yes. Any questions for the staff from the board? Dr. Ola, that concludes our report.
Thank you for the report. We do recognize all y'all's hard work. Look forward to hearing from you again next month. Okay, next up, board committee reports. We'll start with mine, the executive committee report. Since our last meeting was only 53 days ago, this report's a little shorter than usual. But I did represent the TVME at several events, one being the TVMA annual conference, where I addressed the TVMA board of directors, the bovine practice committee, the equine practice committee, the exotics committee, and the government relations committee. I answered questions in regard to the Senate and House bills that may potentially affect the TVME and what impact these bills, if signed, would have on our chapter. I would point out that the exotics committee was very grateful for the guidance of the one pager that the staff worked on. They were very thankful in regards to helping them navigate the prescription requirements for their controlled substances with their clients. So thank y'all for that. They really were genuinely appreciative of that. They've been asking for that for a long time and finally got it. So thank you. And Mike, thank you for the work that you did to make that happen. So I also visited Texas A&M University to discuss the TVME with the third year class. That was a lot of fun with the soon-to-be doctors. And I met with clinicians to discuss record keeping requirements and expectations at the university. It was a very collaborative conversation with the clinicians. They had lots of questions, and it was a very good conversation. Excuse me. We continue to with the great pace of holding our informal conferences and deciding cases. We've had 2 IC days since the last meeting. I want to thank each board member for the time served on those panels as we get our new board members involved and everybody participating. I know the amount of time it takes to prepare for those things. It doesn't go unnoticed. It's a tremendous amount of work. And so thank y'all for y'all's preparation for those. Our executive team our executive team also met to discuss the agenda items for today. We'll continue to do that prior to these meetings. And upcoming, I've been invited to address the first graduating class of the Texas Tech School of Veterinary Medicine on their last day of class in May prior to graduation. We are excited to welcome them and all the new graduates from Texas A&M and the other colleges outside of the state of Texas as they graduate next month. And so exciting times. Our licensing division will have their hands full with proctoring those state board exams and getting all of our new graduates ready to work to fulfill the need of the state of Texas. So thank y'all for that. Any questions on my report? Yes. Do I have any other volunteers for discussing reports on the board? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to agenda item number 8, discussion regarding the use of compounded controlled substances and the application of Texas Administrative Code rule. I will call on the staff to start that discussion.
Yes, so we have received numerous inquiries and just been advised from the public and licensees that there is much confusion surrounding this rule, specifically as it relates to compounded controlled substances for multi-use office use, basically. And so I will tell you, in our current rule, there is nothing that prohibits such a thing. There is no prohibition on using compounded controlled substances for office stock. We do have a rule that, as part of the rule, you're not allowed to use that office stock to then prescribe to an individual patient to go home with. So that is a limitation. If you're using for a specific patient for the medication to go home, it does need to be ordered specifically for that patient, not office use and then dispensed that way. But aside from that, really, there is no prohibition against ordering for compounded controlled substances for office use.
Thank you, Kelly. I would just like to say, I'd like to thank the public that have brought this issue to our attention with the confusion as to what's out there, gossip or whatever is on what we've done and what we haven't done. I can't point to a case where we made a ruling or a public statement. So wherever that information came from, it did not come from this body. And so we're here today to try to clarify that position. And I think Kelly has done so very well, that they are allowed to purchase that. They can use those compounded controlled substances in their clinics, but if they're going to prescribe it outside for somebody to take home, that has to be its own prescription and following those rules associated with that. Panel members, any discussion in regards to this?
And just to clarify, it needs to be an outside prescription, not an RX in clinic from their stock.
Correct. Yes, if we're dispensing to a patient to take home.
Okay, I do believe the staff is going to be putting together a one-pager for that as well, that we can refer people to. It'll be available on the website, and that'll be coming up soon.
And I would also mention, it pains me that people had this conception and were, acting in a way that not able to use these medications. If any licensees remember if they have questions about our rules, interpretations, we're a small agency. There is myself and 2 staff attorneys, but email us, call us, we'll answer your question. I don't want any misconceptions out there. So if anything comes up, please reach out.
But I do want to congratulate the process that people brought this to our attention.
Absolutely.
And we want to clarify because we do want to be able to treat animals appropriately.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, hearing nothing else, we'll move on to agenda item number 9, and that is discussion regarding inspection policies and procedures. I recognize Mr. Tapper.
Thank you. So our inspection process over the past year has been reviewed. I can't tell you how many times. So part of the TDLR attachment was for them to come in and review our A to Z inspection process. They started with reviewing our policies. They went out in the field with the investigators to shadow and watch them do inspections. So while that is going on, we're under audit by the state auditor's office, who is doing an A to Z audit of our inspection process. And they started identically looking at our policies, looking at our procedures. They took it a step further. They looked at training. What training did we provide? How much classroom time did we put the investigators through, investigators' backgrounds, education, stuff like that. Then they also sent 2 of their auditors out in the field and observed multiple inspections. So they produced a findings, TDLR produced a findings. One of the findings from the state auditor's office, that their biggest issue is to firm up our files, how we file things, what we log on our log, because keep in mind, all this is done on pen and paper. We don't have a computer application that does any of this. And one of the big things is our inspections are risk-based. So we have to search for veterinarians who hasn't been inspected in 8 years, veterinarians who have had substantial complaints filed against them, veterinarians that have been arrested on criminal offenses, veterinarians who dispense or prescribe large amounts of controlled drugs, PMP alerts when the PMP system identifies a veterinarian that's issued a 5 and 3 rule, which means a client is going to 5 different pharmacies, getting prescriptions filled that were written by 3 different doctors. So what the investigators have to do is they have to do their homework and they have to go search our physical server to search for agreed orders, search for previous inspections, and then they have to flag them in one of the risk indicators. Then we go out and do the audit. So one of the findings from the state auditors is we didn't have a written guide that I could actually hand somebody and it would tell them step by step how to go out and do inspections. So we drafted that guide. The state auditors reviewed it. All of their recommendations were accommodated. All of TDLR's accommodations were accommodated. Then we had our legal team review it, our executive director review it, and then we put all the investigators in a classroom and gave them an additional week of training for the new accommodations, the new changes. So our priority enforcement is inspections. So 50% of the investigators' time is spent on inspections, whether they're researching or they're out in the field, they're following up, gathering proofs of compliance and so on. So last year was a big review, audit, changes, updates, and so on. So that being said, we're working on our next update because of Salesforce. Starting September 1, we're going to be able to walk in a clinic with a tablet, pull up the licensees, and we're going to be able to go through and do that inspection digitally. And there'll be no more paper. There'll be no more spreadsheets. All that's going to be kept by the computer application. And one of the functions we're working on now is to have that computer application identify the veterinarians that fall in them risk categories. So we're going to save so many man hours whenever we take that next step in September 1. So there's been a lot of work by many people, team effort from all the investigators to the legal team, administrative staff, finance and how we do travel, rent cars, hotel rooms, meal reimbursement. It's everybody had a hand in play working on that process. So I think that kind of sums it up. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Mike, thank you so much. I was the one that kind of asked for this detail, and I think it's just amazing how good of a job you guys do. We dump on you, expecting you to work miracles with no budget and nothing to work with, but you guys come through every time. And it amazes me that when you report today that out of the 405 inspections, 11, which is about 0.03%, resulted in some kind of fine or discipline or whatever. And those were all on controlled drugs. So, I think you guys are doing an outstanding job, and it's scary as a practitioner when you hear, oh, the state guys are in and it travels like wildfire. Oh, they're here. Everybody get ready. Lockdown. Save your children. You know, here they come. But I think you guys are doing a very good job of making it an educational process, not only checking the boxes, but I would encourage you guys to keep up the encouragement of cleanliness in the clinics, because as you know, vet clinics have a place to be nasty. And just help guys, I think clinics a lot with the paperwork that get us in trouble. You know, we've had a lot of complaints on dental procedures and not calling the owner before pulling teeth, just the basic paperwork. And you guys really can have a hand to be an assistant to those veterinarians. It's not like we're looking to get them in trouble if they don't have it. We're trying to prevent problems and make everybody happy and prevent complaints and do that. But again, thank you so much. You do a very good job. I'll probably, when you get the new computer, I'll be number one, Gold will be probably two, and then Dr. Crown will be number three on your list to go see. But we welcome you coming in. So thanks a lot. Good
Well,
job.
I know we've done Dr. Crowner, I know we've done Dr. Gola. I know, we've been to Beeville. So, thank you for the compliment on that investigator. That was great to hear. But we strive to educate. We want to seek compliance through education. We're not walking in there slapping anybody on the back of the head or any of that. The investigators are very professional. It's been very rewarding this past year because a lot of vets or Trent or somebody will call and say, hey, you know what, I was shocked that we had an inspection and it wasn't as bad as we hear on the streets. And we're also, one Dawkins and I, we are going out with the investigators and we're double checking, making sure that they're following procedures, they're following the process, or doing what they're supposed to be doing. So we're doing check rides, going out to make sure that we're trying to make it a perfect system, and we strive every day to make it better and better. So, but it takes an entire team. It really does. So.
As evidenced by your inspections and your list and things, you're doing a great job. But really, across the board, state of Texas veterinarians are doing a pretty dang good job too. If you've had 405 inspections and 11 have resulted in, controlled substance, which is, easy to do. You count pills and count CCs, and sometimes you can get off on that. Just need a little correction. But thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Right. Thank you.
I appreciate your candor and your approach to your investigations and wanting to be helpful. But if I'm a veterinarian and I want to be compliant, and I'm reviewing my process to say, okay, if I have an investigator walk in tomorrow, what do I need to be prepared for? Do you have that information available? And if so, where can they find it?
So we actually have that on our webpage. We have the inspection sheet that we use that has all the categories. There's fixing to be an update by our IT that's going to even add to that. And all the common deficiencies that we see, they're going to be listed in there. It's going to tell you how to comply. Here's what you have to do to comply. So the webpage is the best tool. We field a lot of calls almost weekly with veterinarians asking questions. Hey, we heard you're in town. I'm sure I'm next. How do I make sure? We've developed a lot of forms, like inventory forms. We hand them out like every inspection. We hand a lot of stuff out to educate so we can get compliance, basically. And then we teach. We go around the state teaching a 2-hour course, the mandatory course, and part of that course we cover inspections. Here's what you have to do. And I think so far we've had over 8,000 licensees attend that course over the past several years. So we are out there. I think our next one's in the Brazos County Veterinary Association. That's the next one that's scheduled. So we're out there sending the message, and we cover the inspection part also.
Thank you.
Do they get CE for the time?
They do. They do. The certificates actually come from our office. So we gather a list, and within a week, we're sending CEs out, certificates out.
I do see them. They put practice management, usually 1.5 hours.
Mr. Tacker, on your list of things on your checklist, does that include like making sure if they have an LBT, that license is displayed
just because I've seen on some of the vet tech social media, it's like we had an inspection and I didn't know I was supposed to have my license.
Right, so our mission is, control drugs, looking for drug diversion to, protect the public. We do check sanitation, we look at the autoclaves, we look at the sterile packs, we check to make sure their license is displayed, the notice to client displayed. We look at, all their dispensing records, we look at patient records, if they perform alternative therapies, we look at the additional documents that they have in that. So, we cover a lot, we check a lot of boxes, when we're in there. So a typical inspection will take, anywhere from an hour and a half to 3 hours, depending on the number of licensees. Some of them, can take as much as, the entire day or 2 days. So, it all depends on the size. When you go to a big facility like Gulf Coast, they were there like a week, but you have over 100 licensees. So a mom and pop, you're looking at an hour and a half for a licensee.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Board members? Mike, thank you for your comments and being prepared today.
Yes, sir.
Okay, next up, agenda item 10, contested cases. Consideration of possible recommendation to the Texas Commission of Licensing and Regulation regarding contested cases heard before the State Office of Administrative Hearings. We have two today, CP 21-217, Lauren Ellender, and CP 23-231, Timothy Wallace. If anyone is appearing in person today to discuss these cases, we will call you up to address the board. The prosecuting attorney will have the opportunity to be heard first and then the respondent. Please make sure to state your name clearly and who you represent. Each side will have up to 5 minutes to speak initially and then up to 3 minutes for rebuttal if needed. Please understand the board can only consider information that was in the record at the time the case was presented to at SOA. Please limit your comments to what is in the SOA record. We'll begin with item 1, Kristen Sabro and Lauren Ellender.
Good morning. Thank you. So I'm presenting this case today on behalf of our other staff attorney, Mark Lee. He can't be here today.
Please state your name.
My name is Kristen Stavro. I'm one of the staff attorneys for the board. So I'm here to present the default dismissal that was administered by ALJ Collis on December 4th, 2024, granting the board's motion for default dismissal and that the case be submitted to the board for informal disposition on a default basis in accordance with the Administrative Procedure Act. Respondent Lauren Ellender is a licensed veterinarian in the state of Texas. On or about January 27th, 2021, the complainant took his dog Peanut to Bingle Veterinary Clinic because it had been sick for a few days. The complainant brought Peanut's potty patty with him because it had urine stains that were dark orange. Respondent examined Peanut there, performed a fecal test for parasites, and determined that Peanut was dehydrated and gave him a fluid injection. Respondent did not conduct any other tests or take a blood sample. The next day, January 28th, 2021, Peanut appeared to be worse and was also lethargic. The complainant contacted the clinic to have Peanut seen again, but did not bring him in because he wanted respondent to be the one to continue any treatment, and respondent was not in that day. Peanut did not get any better, so later that same day, the plaintiff took him to another facility, Fairbank Animal Clinic, to be examined and treated. The veterinarian at Fairbank took blood and did a urinalysis, which showed that Peanut was severely anemic and that he would need a blood transfusion. Even with the transfusion, the veterinarian determined that Peanut's chance to recover was less than 50%. After discussing the situation with the veterinarian, the complainant determined that it would be best to euthanize Peanut. Respondent failed to meet the standard of care because she did not diagnose or treat Peanut when she failed to recognize obvious symptoms and failed to do adequate testing, i.e. blood work or urinalysis, to determine Peanut's actual condition. A hearing was held at SOA on December 12th, 2024. Respondent did not appear and was not represented at the hearing. The staff showed proof of adequate notice of the hearing to respondent. Upon establishing adequate notice, the staff moved for a default dismissal and remanded the case. Staff's motion was granted and the factual allegations detailed in the notice of hearing and the documents incorporated within the notice were deemed admitted. Legal recommends that the board issue a final notice adopting the factual findings with the complaint and the penalties sought, which includes a formal reprimand, an administrative penalty of $1,000, and a total of 6 hours of continuing education, 3 hours in the area of internal medicine, and 3 hours in the area of critical care. I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Board members, any questions? I do not believe we have anybody here representing Dr. Ellender. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay. With that being the case, no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to accept the original IC.
Second. All right, it's been moved and seconded that this board accept the recommendation from the IC panel, which is a formal reprimand, 6 hours of CE, and $1,000 administrative penalty. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Okay, next up on to item 2, Ms. Stavro and Timothy Wallace. Board recognizes Ms. Stavro.
Hi, again, Kristen Stavro, presenting another case. So I'm here to present the granted default dismissal that was administered by ALJ Bright on December 12th, 2024, granting the board's motion for default dismissal and that the case be remanded to the board for informal disposition on a default basis in accordance with the Administrative Procedure Act. Respondent Timothy Wallace of Wiley, Texas is a licensed veterinarian in the state of Texas. On or about September 30th, 2022, Phoenix, an approximately 18-year-old bobcat, presented to respondent at Parker Road Veterinary Hospital for concerns of lethargy and inappetence. Respondent performed blood work on Phoenix and determined that he was suffering from severe anemia. Respondent told Phoenix's owner that he was going to give him prednisone and a B12 injection for the anemia. Respondent did not discuss a blood transfusion or other treatments to address Phoenix's severe anemia. Respondent gave an injection of a cloudy, colorless liquid. This injection was not recorded in Phoenix's medical records. Respondent also prescribed Cerenia, prednisone, and enrofloxacin to be given to Phoenix orally. Months later, respondent told Phoenix's owner that the injection was actually Baytril. On or about October 1st, 2022, Phoenix passed away at home. On or about March 20th, 2023, a complaint was filed with the board by complainant. Complainant alleged that respondent neglected to treat Phoenix for anemia. Multiple attempts were made by the TB-VME investigator to contact respondent, and respondent failed to respond to the complaint. After careful review of the case by the board staff veterinarian and the enforcement committee during an informal conference, it was determined that disciplinary action was justified. First, respondent has violated the board's honesty, integrity, and fair dealing rule. Respondent told Phoenix's owner that he was going to give him a prednisone and B12 injection. It wasn't until months later that respondent told Phoenix's owner that the injection was actually Baytril. Second, respondent has violated the board's record-keeping rule. Specifically, respondent's medical records are deficient in that they do not include the following: examination findings if required for diagnosis or treatment and is not difficult to obtain. A, weight, actual or estimated. B, temperature. C, pulse. D, respiration. And E, any additional findings needed for diagnosis. A differential diagnosis. Drugs and their dosages administered, dispensed, or prescribed. Third, respondent has violated the board's duty to cooperate with the board rule. Respondent failed to answer the board's investigator within 21 days of receipt of the investigator's request for information from respondent. A hearing was held at SOA on December 12, 2024. Respondent did not appear and was not represented at the hearing. The staff showed proof of adequate notice of the hearing to respondent. Upon establishing adequate notice, the staff moved for a default dismissal and remanded the case. Staff's motion was granted, and the factual allegations detailed in the notice of hearing and the documents incorporated within the notice were deemed admitted. Legal recommends that the board issue a final order adopting the factual findings within the complaint and penalties sought, which includes a formal reprimand, an administrative penalty of $3,500, and a total of 6 hours of continuing education, 2 hours in the area of feline diabetes, 2 hours in the area of feline anemia, and 2 hours in the area of exotic felines. I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Board members, any questions for Ms. Deborah? Okay, I'll call for any testimony for representation of Dr. Wallace. Hearing none, board members, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we accept the IC panel's recommendation.
Second. It's been moved and seconded that we accept the IC panel's recommendations of a formal reprimand, $3,500 administrative penalty, as well as 6 hours of CE. Board members, discussion.
Was it 35?
I believe-
3,500.
3,500. Thank you.
Any other discussion, questions? Okay, hearing none, all in favor of this motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you,
very
guys.
much. Okay, next up, item 11, consideration and approval of agreed orders. The chair recognizes Ms. Phelps.
Dr. Gola, would any board members like to be recused from any cases regarding the approval of agreed order or pull any of these cases for executive session?
It helps, I'm a little late, I did want to pull one, I just had a clarification question. My apologies, it's CP 24,450.
Is that it?
And so we're pulling CP 24,450 from the agreed orders. Okay. Is there a motion to approve all cases except CP 24,450?
Move.
Okay. It's been moved and second that we approve all the cases except CP 24,450. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Consideration and approval, agenda item 12 of cases recommended for dismissal from informal conference. I recognize Ms. Phelps.
So I have been notified that the board members would like to pull case number CP 24-015 for executive session. Would any board members like to be recused from voting on any of these cases or pull any additional cases for executive session?
Okay, hearing none further, I would entertain a motion.
Move.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve all cases except for CP 24-015. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Agenda item 13, consideration and approval of cases recommended for dismissal from staff conference. I recognize Ms. Phelps.
Would any board members like to be recused from voting on any of these cases or pull any cases for executive session?
Okay, hearing no cases to pull, or we'll go ahead and entertain a motion to accept all of these cases.
Move.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve all these cases for dismissal from staff conference. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Agenda item 14, consideration and approval of cases recommended for dismissal by medical review. I recognize Ms. Phelps.
I have been notified that the board members would like to pull several cases for executive session. Those cases are CP 24-014, CP 24-201, CP 25-051, CP 25-052, and CP 25-110 for executive session. Would any board members like to be recused from voting on any of these cases for medical review or pull any additional cases for executive session?
Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve all those cases except outlined by Ms. Phelps.
Move.
Second.
Right, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, pursuant to chapter 551.071 subsection 1 of the Texas Government Code, this meeting of the Texas Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners will now go into executive session at 10:50 a.m. Again, The time is 11:12 a.m. and pursuant to sections 551.071 of the Texas Government Code, the board returned from executive session. No action was taken in executive session. We do have some cases that we need to go through here. The first case is CP 24-450. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we accept this case, CP 24-450. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next up is case from informal conferences, CP 24-015. Do I have a motion?
Move
We're moving to, just for
to,
clarity.
accept, yes.
Second.
All right, been moved and seconded to accept. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next is case CP 24-014 from medical review. Do I have a motion?
Move to accept.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded to accept. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries to accept CP 24-014. Next case is CP 24-201. Do I have a motion?
Move to accept.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to accept CP 24-201. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next case, CP 25-051. Do I have a motion?
Move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to accept CP 25-051. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Next case, CP 25-052. Do I have a motion?
Move to accept.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to accept CP 25-052. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Finally, case CP 25-110. Is there a motion?
Move to accept.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept CP 25-110. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, next up on our agenda item is 16, discussion of possible agenda items for future board meetings. Do we have any future agenda requests from the board?
I would like for us to, if possible, just to kind of visit about some of the approvals of continuing education courses. I know at this point, we've allowed some of the local BMAs and institutions to line up their own continuing education. I think it's time as a board, we kind of look over those. See if that is something we want to continue or if we'd like to alter that some fashion.
Okay, so we can sure consider that for our next board meeting. Any other items? Okay, board members, remember we do have a deadline for these. The staff will send out an email just so that we have time to prepare. So be looking for that email, and we'll work on the agenda as the executive committee a few weeks before our next meeting. All right, with that, I'll call this meeting of the state board.
And we have our
Next meeting, can we verify next meeting?
Do we have the dates?
Yes, July 15th.
At 9 a.m.
And this was that also.
And it will, as of now, it is in this location. So July 15th at 9 a.m. in this location.
Okay, great.
Great, thank you all for that. Okay, with that, this meeting of the board of the Texas Board of Veterinary Medical Examiners is adjourned.